Here's Greg Gutfeld.
And that's somehow a conspiracy to point out a virus that is not natural, appears so different that it might be man-made, could have come from a lab. No, you can't say that. But this is also...
Pause it. And to be clear, no one's saying that it was created in a lab at this point. No one's saying that. Is it possible? Yes.
Yeah, people are studying it.
It's possible.
There's dueling papers.
But no one, not the Department of Energy, not the FBI, no one is saying it was created in the lab. They're saying it was being studied in the lab and that it leaked. And they're saying that with a low confidence, and only 2 agencies are saying that. But he's already taking this leap because the details are not important.
Yep, you stretch it like silly putty.
The point is, we got to be able to say whatever we want.
Like maybe Xi did this to us.
Maybe Xi did this to us. Maybe, maybe it is clear that, like, race plays a factor in IQ. I mean, once you get rid of a need for evidence,
yeah.
Once you can attack this stuff, it all goes out the window.
Mm-hmm. You see the same sort of things about the getting COVID leads to similar antibodies as the vaccine, and they're all taking a victory lap over that, despite the thing in all the news stories about that finding, which is that but getting the virus itself without the vaccine could cause you to die.
Right, as well as having other complications.
Yep.
James Inhofe, former senator, left because he had long COVID.
Yeah, that
just came out with.
You don't hear about that conspiracy of silence.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. And that's somehow a conspiracy to point out a virus that is not natural, appears so different that it might be man-made, could have come from a lab. No, you can't say that. But this is also, I'll shut up, is a great example of how accusations of racism can suppress conversation, right? It's about, it happens in every issue. So when you brought up that the origins of COVID had to be in China, then you were obviously Asian phobic, right? And it was racist to say Chinese or China virus, and they would link it to Asian people getting brutalized by including homeless people in Oakland, California. Somehow that was due to Donald Trump, as if homeless people were watching The Five and getting angry. So I think that, what the race card does is it can crush actual dialogue and theories based on the fact that, it comes from somewhere else. You have to talk about it, and we have to investigate. And, if you think the 9/11 lawsuits were 20 years, this is going to go on for a century. Yeah. This is going to cast a long shadow forward with coming litigation because you're talking millions of people.
Yep.
This idea that people weren't saying that it originated in China, that's just not true. And the idea that if a homeless person beat up an Asian person, that they couldn't have got it from a general push in society to blame Chinese people is also absurd. But the idea that in any way this was quashed because people were concerned about speculating on whether it was leaked from a lab or came from a wet market was a function of race. No, it was suppressed to the extent that it was because there was no evidence of it.
But certain people jumped onto it and promoted it because of the usefulness it had to agitating against China or, racist appeals.
Dan from Memphis area, people pointed to the coincidence of the lab existing and studying coronavirus in bats, but that ignores the fact that they probably chose to put a coronavirus lab in an area where bats transmitted coronaviruses lived. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this is why this is even more confirmation. The first thing that confirmed it was Jon Stewart doing a riff, right? You remember that when he did the lab leak riff?
I don't.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. But it's he was able to talk about it. Wasn't any more convincing then either.
It's really it's fascinating to see, but I just don't I don't think it's gaining traction. I mean, I imagine on Fox's Discord or whatever they have, there's a lot of that going on, but there's a lot of different sort of cross currents here with the China stuff.
I also think there's an anti-public health thing. I think that's why the Koch brothers are into this. But him saying this was so unnatural. It must have been some sort of conspiracy that created a virus like this, as opposed to like maybe something we need to be concerned about. Certain types of H1 flus.
The reason why, I mean, we saw this. We just recently interviewed the one of the co-authors of Merchants of Doubt. The reason why they did not want, any exclusion of like smoking in any areas is because it sets a precedent. And the reason why the right, broadly speaking, I don't know about Greg Gutfeld. He just does what he's basically, he's just led in the same way that like a dog is. He just sees where the pack goes and that's where he goes. I don't know if he has any original thoughts in his head anyways. Doesn't matter. The reason why the right attacks the idea of things like a virus existing in nature is because it both points to like the potential problems with climate change. It also said, like, if you accept that nature presents something like this, as opposed to it being a nefarious plot, that you could stop the plot. If you were stronger or more,
Send the cops in.
militaristic, send the cops in, whatever it is. But if you accept that these things exist, outside of being able to preempt them, then you have to accept that the only response is a communal one. And the problem with a communal response to a pandemic is not the specific communal response to a pandemic, but it begins to make it clear on almost an ideological level that communal responses can work, that we need government. We need a society that is actually can marshal forces that individuals or corporations cannot marshal. That is why they were against trying to fix the ozone layer. That's why they hate the fact that we were able to begin to repair the ozone layer by outlawing fluorocarbons. They hate that story. They hate the story of the Cuyahoga River, which used to catch on fire before the EPA cleaned it up. Literally caught on fire. They hate those stories because it runs contrary to their ideology. Every single one of those precedents builds a case that you need a communal response to things. That's why they hated government restrictions on tobacco. That's why they went and paid. That's why the academics who were paid to lie about these studies did it, because they also had that ideology that they don't want government to interfere in the private marketplace, even if it means saving a couple of lives.
Because that's where all like the Ben Shapiros are now on climate change. It's like, oh, it's happening, but we can't do anything about it. But we did the ozone layer and acid rain. Like, we have examples of this, buddy.
Without a doubt.